When you were around 33, what were your biggest objectives that you were thinking about being a husband, a dad, around that time?
When I was in my early 30s, I was feeling sort of overwhelmed because we had 4 children. How are we going to do this? It seemed an overwhelming task. Mm-hmm. I was particularly worried about finances. Mm-hmm. How are we going to make it? We've got so many things to do. And are we going to make it? And I think it's pretty much the same today as it was way back in the early 80s when we did this.
Obviously financial, I think that's everyone's concern. You know, you want the best for your kids, and so it's a whole nother body. My 2 boys eat as much as I do as it is, so having a third one coming, you know, it scares me. So
I thought when our kids came along, when we got the kids out of diapers, we were going to be rich because we wouldn't have to pay for diapers anymore. But there's always something else, and something else after that. But the thing that we discovered is that somehow we make it. And the challenges, even though they seem overwhelming, you take them one step at a time. You don't have to solve 25 years of problems in 25 days. You just kind of go with the flow, and you do the best you can, and you support each other as husband and wife, and as a father, and as parents. And even though the days seem long, the years are fast, and there they go. And here we are. Here I am now at 72, a grandparent of 5 children.
What would you say was your key to balancing being a husband as well as being a dad? Because I feel like sometimes I can be guilty of, I'm just focused on, I need to raise these kids right, I need to do it, and then, you know, you kind of lack the being a husband part of it. Was there anything that helped you, or is that the golden question?
It's a challenge. When you're a parent, the kids need so much attention, and yet, you know, we too, who made these kids, we have our own needs. I used to take them out for what we call special time. About once a week, I'd take on Thursday night one of the kids, walk on the beach and find shells, or I'd take them out for ice cream, just something quick and easy, or maybe for a bike ride, just the 2 of us together. And so there was individual time for the kids, and that was good to connect. It's a challenge of biblical proportions, I think, raising kids. But it's the best thing.
It is.
It's the best.
It really is.
What have you learned along the way? I mean, in terms of being a father?
A dad? One is I'm trying to be a lot more faith-based with my kids, which I think is huge. I grew up knowing about Jesus, praying to Jesus, but I never went to church. I never went to Sabbath school and these type of things. And so, like I said, even now when I teach, I'm learning these stories for the first time, like truly. And so it's why they'll say like, oh, you've taught already. And it's like, no, like I want to learn about this. Like I've heard these names before, but I have no clue what they mean. I know Noah, you know, everyone knows Noah, right? Everyone knows Moses. So I hear all these other names and it's like, was that a good person? Was that a bad person? You know, I have no idea. And so I think it's really cool. Grayson will come home and he'll talk about Jonah and the whale, and he'll be telling me these things, and I'm sitting there like learning from him. My 4-year-old is teaching me, you know, about these things. And so I think that's really helped a lot. Personally, him and I have this thing where we can pray. And it helps him. You know, it's something where he'll tell me, you know, I'm having bad thoughts, Daddy, I can't sleep. You know, I'm thinking about a coyote breaking into our house. And so we'll pray about it, you know, dear Jesus, please protect us tonight, things like that. And he will fall asleep. And so it's like, this is really cool to have this in our life. You know, not that I had a bad upbringing or anything, but I was scared and I would just be scared, you know, I never really thought of these type of things. And so I think that's one of the biggest things for me.
The idea of spiritual training, I think, for kids, one of the key things for us was consistency. Kids thrive on consistency. I found a way when I was about in 2nd grade to get some time with my mother. I noticed she went off to church, and I said, Mom, where you going? She went up to church for a half hour. Can I go with you? So we started that habit. And for years and years, I went to church with her as a little boy. And I learned to love the things of God from my mother. That was a consistent thing that she did. And even though when I became a teenager, it was a little here, a little there, You know, I was able to build upon that when I had a faith experience in my early 20s.
What was that, your faith experience?
I was after college, and I had my heart set, thinking I had fallen in love, and I had great affection for this girl I met in college, and all of a sudden she said, adios.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had this kind of crisis, this existential crisis.
Yeah.
Who do you trust when the one you trust the most lets you down? And this is where I sort of began to think about the things of God. Is God trustworthy?
Mm-hmm.
Is God there? Will the divine let me down in the same way as I was let down? So it led me to just begin to read in a way I hadn't read before. And I came across a series of lectures that introduced me to a different expression of Christianity. I was raised in a Catholic church, and then I came across these series of lectures that was sponsored, I didn't know it then, but it was by the Adventist Church. And it blossomed, and I found a real source of comfort and hope in the midst of heartache.
Yeah.
And I think that's sometimes where God reaches us, in the midst of crisis. I think C.S. Lewis was the one who said that God whispers to us in our joys, but he shouts in our sorrows.
It's interesting how that all kind of tied in.
How God uses all these things, these disappointments and these things we don't understand.
Yeah.
How do you make sense of that?
You know, I've been doing Bible study with Pastor Tara before I was baptized, and just learning basic things about death, about life, that I just thought I understood, but now I do. It's just this whole sense of like, oh, I have this great, happy life because of God. Every time I felt like I can't do that, gotten through it. Like you said, you're nervous about finances. How are we going to do this? And you get through it. And it's, you know, how did we do that? All the glory to God. And so to me, it's just everything. Like it's what I tried. I mean, you know, my hat says pray. My shirt has Jesus on it. Like it's kind of,
it's who you are.
It's who I am now, and it's it's the happiest I've ever been, and it's the calmest I've ever been. And so that's the biggest thing for me is I'm always stressed about stuff, always uptight and anxious. Will things be right? Will things be perfect? And then doing Bible study, it was like, well, Jesus was the only one who was perfect, and not everyone liked him, you know. So it's like, why am I trying to please everyone, or why am I trying to make it, you know? So to me, it's God's everything.
Yeah, I've come to the place in my life where I like the church, and I'm part of the church, very much so, but I love the Lord. Like the church, love the Lord. The purpose of the church is to lead us to the Lord of the church and to help us in our relationship with Him. And so my hope is in the person of Christ. And that's good enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amen.
And my help is in the person of Christ. Yeah.
Yep.